Hello and welcome to the SI5 Improvement Podcast, where we bring to you supreme intelligence to self-improvement. With high performance from everyday people, because I truly believe that every single one of you has advice to give, value to share, that the listeners from this podcast can take into our own life, apply and improve. Because when you improve you improve your life. So welcome to the episode. On today's episode, we have Sarah Richards joining us to talk about what it's like to run a business, mental health impacts on that, weight loss, physical health, mental health, dealing with loss of loved ones, and how you can take action and take ownership of that in your life and overcome these things to improve who you are. So it's really valuable advice for anybody who's running a business, who's struggling to run a business, who needs to lose some weight. Sarah's got a great success story of her own to share. So let's crack on with it. Sarah, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, hi, happy to be here.
Great, thank you very much for coming on. How are you?
I am good. A little gloomy weather, but I'm feeling fantastic. I got my weights workout in this morning, my cup of coffee, so ready to take on the day.
There you go. You've attacked the day straight away from the morning. And it's 10 o'clock in the morning over there, isn't it? You're in America.
Yes. Yep.
Whereabouts in America are you?
I'm in Minnesota, USA. So
Minnesota.
Grand Rapids, we're up in northern Minnesota, so at the very top of the states. It's about 4 hours from the cities, which most people are familiar with the Twin Cities. But yeah, we're about 4 hours north, got lots of lakes and trees and nature, and it's a good place to be.
Well, that sounds brilliant. Lakes, nature, woodland, brilliant.
Yes.
And you've done your weight session this morning. Great start to the day. I've been for my run as well, so we're both in a positive mindset.
Yes, exercise always helps. It's my therapy in the morning. If I miss a workout, I feel like the day's just kind of thrown off, you know?
Yeah, and I interviewed a guest yesterday who spoke about walking was her therapy. And you're just saying now exercise is your therapy. And we all talk about therapy nowadays. And we all think of therapy as sitting down and talking about our problems with someone. But actually, when you're outside exercise or inside exercising, it's amazing how the clarity of our thought increases. And we can start actually finding solutions to our problems when we're out exercising.
Absolutely. And just things, I guess you could say random things that come up in the day or whatever, but just everyday stresses and stuff. It just helps deal with everything so much better, helps align the body and the mind. And just, yeah, I would have never thought in a year ago, if you would have told me exercise would be my therapy, I would have laughed because I was not there yet. Facebook has these things that have the memories from the year to year. And of course, because I got really serious about my journey a little over a year ago, all these memories are popping up. And it's just crazy to see how far I've come in such a short time, compared to where I was even, 6 months ago. It's ever evolving.
And it's true, like you said about the exercise and just everyday things in your day that you find you deal with better. Exercise reduces your cortisol levels, which is responsible for our stress. So just by getting some exercise in the morning, it's reducing our stress levels throughout the rest of the day. So we don't become so overwhelmed with things. We're thinking more clearly. It's just there's huge benefits.
Yes.
And you're looking great, I have to say, because I've seen a couple of your before and after photos.
Thank you.
It's an incredible transformation, and if I can, I'm gonna try and if we can do the YouTube video and it all goes successfully on the editing, then maybe I can post like a photo somewhere on there during the video of your before and after, so people can see. But it's a great transformation. You actually lost, was it 80 pounds?
Yeah, so in total now, and I actually weighed myself this morning just to see where I was at. In
Yeah.
total, I've lost 115 pounds, but 82 of them have been since July 2023. So this
That's
journey has
amazing.
kind of been going on for 3 years since I closed my shop. But again, when you start a journey and with all the habits that you've accumulated, it takes time to sort those out. I was still into fad diets per se. When I first closed the bakery, I went to Weight Watchers because that's what I knew in my teens, and obviously I didn't stick with it. It didn't work, but it took me a while to really admit that I just had to change my lifestyle. I fought it so hard for decades of, no, I can still eat this and I don't need to work out. And, it's when you realize, like, no, you have to do these things. And instead of like dreading it, you find ways to enjoy it. So I started just by walking because I couldn't even walk a block without feeling like I was going to die. I mean, heavy breathing, sweaty, just out of breath. I mean, it was bad. And that's when I realized, like, no, we've got some work to do. But even if
Yeah.
all you can do at this point is getting up and taking a few steps, even if it's a 5-minute walk, that's improvement. And I think people don't realize, they think they have to go to this extreme level in the very beginning and then they defeat themselves before they even get started, or they think they're going to lose weight super fast when they change their lifestyle, and there's still going to be scale bounces regardless of how hard you're working, because our body needs time to adjust and to get to that fluctuation adjustment period.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Um, so this, I mean, first of all, like you just said, you got into such a place where you were struggling to breathe and having real health problems, and you still, even at that point, you could have just cracked on with that, in that way of life, with that lifestyle. You could have cracked on just struggling to breathe and not being able to walk up the stairs. But the pivotal thing is you made that choice to think, right, I'm now going to do something about it. And so let's go back, Sarah, to when you were a business owner,
Yes. Yep. I had a cupcake shop.
cupcake shop, brilliant. And was it doing well?
It was doing fantastic. So I was a pastry chef in New York City for my 20s. And then I moved back home, which is Minnesota, ended up meeting my husband and had kids, and I still wanted to bake. So after a couple years of working in restaurants around the area, I decided to open up my own bakery because we were really lacking that in this area. Everything was scratch made, real butter, real flour, sugar, the whole 9 yards. And I started with like 20 flavors of cupcakes. When I closed the shop, I had over 125 flavors of cupcakes that I baked from scratch. Um, in the beginning, obviously, it started out in my home and then transferred into a brick and mortar. So I don't have exact numbers of how it was doing in the beginning, but when I was closing, at the very least, I was baking 100 dozen cupcakes a day, plus cookies, scones, biscotti, muffins, Rice Krispie treats, oatmeal cream pies. I mean, you name it, I was baking it.
You're making me very
And
hungry right now.
um, but I, when I was running the business, because I wanted to grow and because I was helping our family so much, I had a hard time saying no. And so that's where a lot of the self sacrifices came, where, okay, well, I'll just grab McDonald's for dinner, or we'll just have pizza for dinner. And, so I started eating very unhealthy and not really taking care of myself at all. My number one focus was the business. My husband was amazing, where he was stepping into the mom and dad role to helping raise our young girls, because I was always there, like 6 days a week, 20 hours a day there to build off that success. So, yes, it was successful, but it came at a very severe cost.
And would you say because you were focusing so much attention on the business, because you felt like you had to keep it going and meet the demands and everything, you've only got so much cognitive bandwidth, I think Robin Sharma refers it to, and it's a term used to say that you can only think about so much in the day. You can only take on so much. So if you're ploughing everything into your business, there's other areas that need your attention that you're not giving your attention, and they're suffering. Would you say that was about right?
Oh, absolutely. And that then started adding to some depression and some anxiety because I felt like I was never here, and I felt like I could never step away from the business because I was afraid, oh, what happens if I take my foot off the pedal, and just step back a little bit. So it was like this catch 22 of constantly feeling guilty on this side, but having this successful business. And what do I do? Because it's successful, I don't just want to let it go, um, but ultimately, that is what I did do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, how are you feeling whilst you're running your business?
In the beginning, I would say the first 2 years were great. I was a brick and mortar for about 4 years total. Um, but then that second year, I mean, it just started, the weight started piling on. And at first, it's, funny because we talk about these before and after pictures. And I told my husband, I said, why didn't you tell me I had gotten this unhealthy? And he's like, I didn't even realize because it wasn't like it just happened overnight. This was years of stress and anxiety with this business where I literally woke up one morning and realized, oh my gosh, I've gained 118 pounds. Who gains 118 pounds without even realizing it at any moment? And I didn't. It wasn't until my depression was super bad just from not being with my family and the anxiety of the business. Because, with COVID and stuff, that whole year was really scary for a small business. That I realized, that I had gotten to this point where I was going to kill myself if I kept on this way. Like the business was going to kill me if I didn't let it go because I had gotten so unhealthy. I mean, besides not being able to walk a block, I could barely reach the top shelf. I couldn't tie my shoes anymore. I mean, there were a lot of little things that started to give me a wake up call of what I was doing to myself.
This is the thing as well with business owners. I know it takes an awful lot of your attention. Same with work as well. Like even having a full time job, it can you can do overtime and say yes to doing overtime. And before you know it, you're working 6 days a week. But especially with a business, because like there's only so much leeway that you can give yourself. But so there's a balance thing, because a lot of people, a lot of podcasts I've listened to with successful business owners, they say that you've got to get rid of the balance. You can't have it because you need to throw everything you've got into the business, otherwise it's not going to work. So you kind of need to neglect other areas of your life. I think the managing director of Octopus Energy said that even in the evening when his kids are wanting his attention, he can't give it to them because he's bashing away at his laptop. So he doesn't agree with the balance thing. But then other people would, and I know other business owners, even friends of mine who run their own business, and they do have a balance. They do manage to balance everything in, and it's hard. They have to get up at like 4 in the morning and get their run in first, and then like they can manage it, but that is so hard to do, and there's many people that can't do that. So for some people, like it's going to be, it's like you said, in your first year you must have been motivated, like proud of yourself. You just so that first year you're buzzing. But then the second year, when it becomes a life habit and it's just this is what you do now, and I'm assuming you. I don't know whether you had future problems with the business in the second year. I don't know, but
No, it kept growing to the point where, so obviously when you do businesses, a lot of people have 5 year plans, and I had a 5 year plan. Well, I reached it in 2 years. And then it kept growing beyond that. And so it was growing faster than I could make these plans or plan for, almost, in a way. It's like, oh my
yeah.
gosh, I didn't plan on going this far yet, or, but I guess we're going this far. And so the business kind of led me, okay, we've got, 10 weddings this weekend and shop hours. And for the first 3.5 years, I ran it all by myself. So I would literally get there at about 9 o'clock at night and start baking. I'd bake till 4 in the morning. I'd come home so my husband could go to work. I'd get the kids ready for school. Then I'd go back and open the shop for sales and then close it down. I'd come home about 5 o'clock, try to eat some dinner, which in the beginning was easy, but mostly I would come home and I would sleep for 4 hours before doing it all over again. And that,
That's not a lot of sleep either. So would you say because your business was expanding that you were, is that where you were saying that you weren't saying no? Like you were
correct,
taking,
yes.
so you were
Every
taking on
opportunity I
work.
took it. What was that?
So you were taking on too much work.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. I had, because to me, I thought if I say no to this person, I'm going to disappoint them and word of mouth is going to go. Like I said, there's so much anxiety there with wanting to do right by everybody, wanting to have the best baked goods, wanting to make everybody happy, but not thinking about my health and what that was doing to my mental health and my family and.
And so you then finally took the action to close the business down.
Yes, in August 2021, I closed it down on my birthday as kind of like a celebratory, yay, just, and because too, at that point, I was 268 pounds. And like I said, just the mental stress of the last 4 years, um, it was really hard. It was really, really hard. I felt like I had failed almost because I was giving up something that was successful. And how can you walk away from something that's making money, you know, without feeling guilty? Um, so it's taken me at this last year of going through this weight loss journey and processing those emotions to really process the bakery and actually be able to talk about it with happiness again and good memories. Because, like I said, for the first couple years, I was pretty just ashamed that I had to give it up. And I didn't know what life, because my whole life, I mean, since I was 19, I was a baker. I didn't know anything else but the kitchen. I had worked in kitchens all across the United States, and that was my life course. What else is out there for me if I'm not baking? Who am I if I'm not a baker? Um, so it was hard in the beginning, even though I knew it was the right choice. I wouldn't say that I was like 100% like, all right, new life path, we've got this, but I knew that was the decision I had to make in order to find out, what was in store for my future.
And with regards to fearing closing the shop down, did you fear first of all what others would think if you shut the shop down and said, "Look, I can't cope with this"? Did you wonder what everybody else would think? Whether they might think, "Oh, I knew it wouldn't work." Like you have the naysayers, don't you? People that are going to then look negatively and start saying, "Oh, I knew that wouldn't work." Oh, and did you fear your finances because obviously that's what's keeping food on your table? Like you were saying, you're a baker, so what else are you going to do? Like if you shut your business down, what else? So what did you have those fears?
I did. But the priority fear, thankfully, in my mind was my husband, making sure he was okay with it. Because when we started this business, we didn't have any money. I had went to a few business. They're like called the IEDC. They basically help with like grants and funds and loans if you need it. And I had brought them my business plan, and they said that will never work in this area. You're not going to make any money. We can't fund this. And so no one would give us help. So I ended up taking our credit cards and buying my equipment that way, and basically starting us in debt. So I was worried that I had, sacrificed all this to get us to this point. And then I was saying, just kidding, this isn't going to work. But when I told my husband, he was so happy and so relieved because he did, even though he didn't know the weight, the amount of weight I had gained, he knew that my health was suffering. And he knew he was worried for me every day, worried about the sleep deprivation, the unhealthy eating, the stress of it all. Because even when I was home, I was still on my phone answering messages, getting back to customers, ordering supplies. Like it was a 24/7. That's what fueled me, you know? So I think at that point, it was more the fear of not closing it that inspired me as opposed to the fear of what would happen if I did close it. You
That's a
know?
really interesting way of looking at it, actually, because it's the fear of your health, which is the biggest fear. Because if you'd have carried on, who knows where you'd have ended up?
I wouldn't be
Where,
here today. And if my husband was here, he would tell you the same thing. If I wouldn't
where,
have closed that, it would have killed me.
so that's going to be my next question. If you had have carried on persevering with the business, where do you think you'd be now? Do you actually think you would be dead?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. There's no way that my mind and body would have kept, something would have given out, whether it be my heart from my health or my mind from my mental. Um, it just, yeah, I wouldn't be here. And it was a scary thought. And it was something that, towards the end, I started to see it. But my husband has always said, that he was watching himself he was watching me kill myself that last year was pretty much how he felt every day, waking
Yeah.
up and seeing me go through these motions with the business. But he also knew it ultimately had to be my choice. He never once said one bad word about the business until I told him I was ready to close it. Then he let all his true feelings out.
I see. So, I have seen your before and after photos, and obviously when I look at your before photo, I can see that if you'd have carried on gaining even more weight, you'd have got into probably some serious health conditions. Um, and how old are you, Sarah?
I'm 38. I'll be 39 next week. So,
Yeah.
and the other thing too is I'm also only 5'1". So when seeing those pictures, like I am really short. So yeah, 268 pounds on a 5'1" frame.
It's even
I
worse.
mean, it's, yeah.
Yeah. So, so what was the first step you did when you closed it down? In how was the first year? I know in your first year, I think you lost quite a lot of weight, if I'm not mistaken.
Nope. So the first year was about 20 pounds or so. So that was 2021 to 2022. And that's when I had started with like the fad diets of Weight Watchers and things like that, not really finding excuses to still eat bad, still eating. And I don't want to, because I don't want to demonize food by any means, but when you're eating processed stuff all the time, it is bad for you. I wasn't incorporating fruits or veggies that much still. I was going by the point system. I was working out maybe once a week, and thought that that was a lot. And then, so that first year was about 20 pounds.
So would
And
you say
then
that first year, like obviously as soon as you know that running the business was your biggest problem because you were not able to prioritize other areas, but there was no magic wand that was as soon as you closed your business, all of a sudden your life was going to dramatically improve. You then had to do obviously some work for that, so that might have taken some time.
absolutely. And that's the thing. I was still pretty much in denial at that point, too, with thinking that I could just change my eating habits a little and work out once a week and this weight will just fall off because I don't have that business anymore and I don't have to worry about it. But that's not what happened at all. Um, and it took actually what I know we're going to be talking about soon. It took some hard life lessons to get me into the right mindset. Like, yeah, I started doing the work a little bit, but I still hadn't really accepted the truth of how hard this journey was going to be and the emotional stuff that I would have to go through from my past in order to succeed today.
So what were these life lessons that presented themselves? What happened after you closed the business down?
So from 2002 2001 to 2002, I had lost the 20 pounds. And then my dad ended up passing away in April 2023. And I had a really rough childhood. It wasn't a happy childhood. Um, and he died from alcoholism, cirrhosis of the liver. Um, so it brought back a lot of childhood memories and pain that I had kind of repressed and not dealt with, and didn't think that it was like affecting me throughout my life, but realized like it was. And having two girls of my own, I realized, because of course, when he passed, I'm not going to lie, that first month after, I was binge eating, I was binge drinking, I was drowning my sorrows in everything bad that I possibly could to try to make the grief and the pain stop, and to make the memories stop, and just to, get it out of my mind. But it was July 10th of last year. I just woke up one morning, and I don't know why, but I woke up that morning and I said, I can't keep killing myself. I closed the business to prevent myself from killing myself. And here I am doing these awful things. And I've got a 9 and 10-year-old at that point that need me. And I need to be an example for them so that they don't have this childhood trauma or these memories. And honestly, in a way, it felt like the first day of the rest of my life last year on July 10th, because from that point, I never looked back. I stopped making the excuses. I threw out all the processed food. I stopped drinking. We didn't eat out anymore. Every meal was cooked at home, vegetables and fruit. I mean, it was a complete 180 churn.
What was it on July the 10th that just made you suddenly commit to living healthy?
I think part of it was I had stepped on the scale, and when I had when I had closed the bakery and stuff, I had lost those 20 pounds, lost a few more. So I was holding weight at about 220, 222. That was like where I was maintaining at. Well, after my dad had passed and I had those couple bad months, I stepped on the scale and my weight was 236.8. And I could feel myself going back up to that 268. And I just said, no, we're not doing this no more. This is not how we're going to live life. And I know we shouldn't always, place our success on the scale, but I do think that is what changed, because I got to see, okay, I gained 14 pounds in the last month. I'm going to keep gaining if I don't change my ways.
And you said something in my collaborative document I sent you. You sent. I've just written some notes down that you actually said that you broke the cycle of trauma, because obviously, like you just said, you were going back up to the weight that you were before you'd lost it, and you were kind of going up and down. I've been similar in that sort of thing as well, and it is breaking that cycle. And you say it was the trauma, because when your dad died and you suddenly said that you were drinking alcohol and binge eating. I spoke a little bit about this on a previous episode about addiction and dopamine and the need to self-soothe. And you were saying about your childhood, you had a difficult childhood, and that's where the susceptibility to this kind of addiction, like whether it be binge eating or alcohol, we can be susceptible from the childhood experiences, and then when faced with a trauma or a stress later on in life, that triggers us to then act to move to the substance. And that's when we start binge eating and drinking, we're actually self-soothing our pain. So it's no surprise to me that that's what you were doing after your dad died, until you suddenly realize that you're actually trying to find a solution to your pain by turning to the binge eating. Because how do you feel after you eat and after you drink? It sort of helps temporarily,
Right.
and then
It
after,
helps in
but in the
the
long
moment.
term, it creates more pain. And so that may be where you were thinking when you got on the scales and realised, oh my goodness, we're going up the wrong way again. We're putting on all this weight. We're going back to where I was. You then suddenly associated that your self-soothing techniques weren't working. That may have been a reason you stamped your foot down.
Yep, I think that had a lot to do with it because even though, like I said in the beginning, I wasn't as consistent and I didn't know exactly how to get myself healthy at that point in 2021, I had made some steps, so by 2023, I was getting there and I, was realizing that I was destroying all that I had done, in just a couple months. What took me 2 years was evaporating because a couple months of feeling good,
I do
And
know.
that I had a friend visit me not that long ago who was inspired by the weight loss. And they said there's this quote that, when you're eating food in the moment, it tastes so good, or if you're drinking or whatever your vice is, it's so good in that moment. But once that moment's gone, what do you have left? Whereas when you're healthy and you're living this lifestyle, you always feel good. There's not you're not searching for that next dopamine fix to make you feel better. Like you're feeling good already. Um, yeah, so I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean because it's the same. I've experienced this myself, and you're on this cycle of grabbing your dopamine hit through whatever substance you're turning to. You're feeling. You wouldn't even say it's feeling good. It's just you feeling comfortable, and then you feel negative and depressed, and then you turn back to the dopamine. Then you feel comfortable. Then you feel negative and depressed. So you're on this constant, like you say, the cycle of trauma. But like you say, when you start living healthy, you might have to go through a bit of a withdrawal process initially, which is hard. And living healthy is hard. It's you've got to work out. You've got to cook your dinners or do your food prep. It's tough, but it's not as tough as the pain of going through the misery of. And it does make over time. You genuinely just start to feel so much more positive, like all the time. So I
I
completely
agree.
agree with you. So during that year, once you stamped your foot down, what then happened? What did you do? And was that when your big dramatic weight loss started taking
Started.
place?
Yes. So last year, the first thing that I did was I didn't even think about exercise. It wasn't in my mind at that moment. The first 6 weeks, I just worked on tracking my food. Um, I had calculated my macros online just using a little app on Google or whatever. And that's how, so I had my Fitness Pal in my phone and I literally logged everything from my coffee creamer to my salad dressings to all the bad foods. Because I know, obviously, in the beginning, when you have a treat, you're like, I can just ignore that. No one needs to know. But you have to hit a level of honesty with yourself where you're literally anything that goes in your mouth, you know, and processing the emotions and the feelings of everything just to it doesn't come all at once and it doesn't come naturally. I think for people who have food addictions, it is really hard. But after those 6 weeks, I started noticing changes. And it's funny because I started sharing my journey on Facebook mostly to be held accountable. Um, but as time went on, it's become obviously helping some people, which is awesome. But even like one of the memories that popped up this past week was, oh, I gained half a pound. And I was maybe a month into my journey. So the scale, it wasn't like I was just consistently dropping. I just knew that I had to eat these things, stay away from most processed stuff. I still always ate bread and carbs because I love carbs. Never, there was no fat. It was not keto. It wasn't carnivore. It was just strictly eating well. And then towards the end of August, I started adding in exercise. And I remember that first time I went to the gym because I was so defeated because I got on the elliptical and I made it for like 8 minutes and thought I was going to die. Like I couldn't breathe, I was sweating, and I'm like, oh, I'm never going to get this. Like there was a lot of defeat in the beginning, but somehow my mind was so determined on this path that I just kept going anyway. And that's the thing in the beginning to anyone, I want them to know that, yeah, it's going to kind of suck. Like, unfortunately, like there's going to be some bad days, but it's mostly just because you haven't built your mental up yet. You haven't realized how capable and strong you are and the things you can do, And if all, like I said before, if all you can do is walk for 5 minutes, that 5 minutes is better than sitting on the couch all day. It's little steps over time done consistently every day that is going to change your life. And even after, because like 6 months in, I'd probably say I had lost about 40 pounds. I still didn't see it. There was nothing, I was still like, it took me up until about 3 months ago where I was like, wow, I've changed, So to people who are sitting there saying, oh, the scale's not moving, or, oh, I don't look any different, it takes time, not days, not weeks, but months, and sometimes years, depending on how hard you're working at your goal. It's not instant because we didn't put on this weight overnight. It may feel like we did, but it took years for me to get to that 118-pound weight gain. And now it's taken years to get 115 pounds of it off. So,
Sarah, what you've just said, it relates so much to what I did, right? And I never knew all this until you just mentioned this. You didn't tell me any of this before the podcast, but I used MyFitnessPal as well. When I was about 20 stone in weight back in 2020, and like you, I didn't focus at all on exercise. I think the first 3 months when I finally stamped my foot down, it took me 3 or 4 months. I wasn't exercising. I was just typing in my calories into MyFitnessPal and trying to hit the nutrients tab. They've got the nutrient goals as well, hasn't it? So I was trying to make sure my protein was good, my fat, my carbs, my calcium, my vitamin C, my iron, my calcium. And I was trying to make sure that everything I was eating, not only was I sticking to the calories, but I was also getting everything that my body needs. And I was losing weight. And do you know what, as well, something else you've just mentioned there is that you kept it simple and just concentrated on not eating ultra-processed food. There are so many people now, I'm seeing it online all the time, and it's annoying me because people are saying, don't eat fruit, it's got too much sugar in. You've got to eat steak and eggs for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and pudding. You can't eat broccoli because it does something to your gut. You can't, and I'm thinking, let's just go back and keep it simple. Just don't eat ultra-processed junk. And we all know what that is. McDonald's, takeaway pizzas, biscuits, crisps. We all know what it is. But we're all overcomplicating things. So that's exactly what I did. And then the exercise as well, like you, my exercise came later. Once I'd lost a bit of weight and I was feeling a bit, I started in exercising, I think, come April. It was during the lockdown. Because everybody started going out running. That's the only thing we were allowed to do. So that's when I started running. But you don't need to exercise to lose weight, do you? You can just literally lose it by eating, just reducing your calories and getting the maths right. So yeah, that's absolutely brilliant. And then you started running afterwards, and like you say, you started at 8 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then because I was still heavy and I hadn't worked out for so long, I started an Instagram account, and that's where I started adding like all these fitness people. So the only thing that's on my Instagram is fitness people. So I would sit there and I'd go for incline walks on my treadmill, and I'd listen to David Goggins, or I'd listen, to whoever would pop up, and just to motivate me. Just to keep me going.
I love David Goggins.
He's so fantastic.
He's one of my biggest inspirations. He's brilliant. My friend Gary Charters introduced me to him when we were on the plane going to Morocco. And so he said, listen to this guy. And I put my earphones in and I started listening to him. I was like, this guy's good. And then when I started watching his videos, he's mental, isn't
he? Yes. But in a good way.
yeah, brilliant way. And as well, you talk about everything on your Instagram is now the fitness people that align with what you're doing. That's so important as well, because it's the people you hang around with and people you're speaking to on a daily basis. And you can just join a group online, and that's having a massive influence in what you're doing, and you're getting support, you're seeing other people doing great things, and that's so important to feed your mind, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm still a part of all the 75 hard groups, and, I love, it kind of becomes a community because you're all working for that same goal. And at the end of the day, that same goal is just to be better than yesterday. And what a beautiful thing that is, to keep pushing yourself, and to just have support all the way around, and to see other people going through it, because like I said, it's not an easy journey.
Yeah, and you
And
realise you're not on your own because do you know what I used to do? This is one example. I went onto an online group, it's a 75 Hard group, and what I was journaling, and I thought I was the only person in the world that journaled. I didn't even know that journaling was a thing, right? I just thought it was just me. And I used to get my diary out in the evening and start writing in my diary. And I'd start writing charts on my wall, like ticking off the days. Every time I succeeded on my diet, I'd tick off the days. And people that I knew personally, like my girlfriend at the time and my friends, they'd be like, "What are you doing? Like, no one else does this." And I started to think I had a problem because like nobody else does this. Why do I need to do this to get myself? And then you go onto like the 75 Hard group, and I started seeing videos of all these other people doing exactly what I was doing. And I was like, "Oh, I'm not the only one that does this." And so it's sort of like, and like even talking to you now, like this whole podcast, it's done me a favor because I'm bringing you on. You've just told me that you've just lost like how many pounds? 200 odd pounds, and you use my Fitness Pal. And there's people that snigger at me using my Fitness Pal. Here he goes again, typing his calories, can't even go out. So you saying this to me is just like clarifying what I'm doing as well, and knowing that if you've lost all this weight and I lost all this weight, it works.
absolutely. And I've never paid a cent for my Fitness Pal. I'll just say that. Like, and I've done
Yeah,
the journaling too. Like when I got below 200 pounds, then I started a countdown for, pounds till I hit my goal. And, like a goal list of like wanting to run a 5K, and, so that I can cross these things off when I accomplish them.
yeah,
I think it helps that visual to see, and I think it helps our minds to process when we're writing down and when we're, visualizing these things, to help us accomplish the goals.
yeah, absolutely. So look, we've just mentioned that 75 Hard. It's a mental toughness program. For anyone that doesn't know what it is, it's a mental toughness program created by an American business owner called Andy Frisella, and it's literally, to keep it simple, it's the fundamentals of a holistic lifestyle, healthy lifestyle that involves reading, exercising, sticking to a healthy diet, hydrating, and then it goes on to maybe some meditation, some cold water therapy. And it's literally he's put this program together based on the fundamental of healthy living, and he just put it into a set of rules and made it a bit more challenging. So this is where you're at, Sarah. You've obviously gone on this massive weight loss journey and self-improvement journey yourself, and then you're in a position where you've now seen the program somewhere, and then that's attracted you at that point on your journey.
Yep. So when I started doing my incline walking on the treadmill on the Instagram, I'd heard about 75 Hard. I was like, okay, what's this? So I did some research, and my mother in law had gotten me this challenge journal. So that's where you could track all your daily tasks for 75 Hard for Christmas. And I was like, okay, I will use this eventually. But I kind of just set it on my dresser and I kind of stare at it every day. And it's like, I'm not there yet. I'm not ready yet. Because my biggest thing in
Yeah.
all of this has been the working out. And then I don't know, I would say it was probably about April I realized, all right, we've got to start this challenge soon. And so the day after my daughter's birthday, on May 8th, 2024, I started 75 Hard, day 1. Um, and I never looked back. I mean, it was, to be honest, I had a lot of help from my husband because obviously, as you know, going through it, the first 30 days I was like adrenaline, like I've got this is great. And then I kind of got a little sick around 32 and my energy kind of dipped. And I was like, I don't think I can do this. My husband was there with my walking shoes and water bottles and, motivation when I needed it. And it's just, I kept reminding myself why I'm doing this. It's for my health to beat, this. Because obviously, I'm trying to think of the best way to word this. My self esteem, even though, I was losing the weight that last year, it still wasn't, I still didn't think I deserved it. I didn't think I was worthy of it. I didn't think I was capable. And so when I heard about this, I was like, I need some mental toughness in my life. I need to learn that I'm capable of doing something like this. So since day one of starting 75 Hard, like I didn't have a negative thought. It was, you can do this, you've got this, let's keep going, and it just really inspired me to bring out that better self, to let all the negativity go and let the positive in and really embrace, the journey that I was on and to give it my best.
This is the interesting thing as well, is that you've already spoken about the fact that you only started with your diet, you didn't implement any exercise until a few months later, then you did 8 minutes on the treadmill. Now, 75 Hard demands two 45-minute workouts every single day, no rest days. So from you having to start off with 8 minutes on the treadmill, it kind of proves that you can't just tackle this sort of a program, or just in general, you can't jump yourself in at the deep end and start thinking you can go and run a marathon when you can't even run 2 minutes. You have to start off, like you said, small, daily, seemingly insignificant improvements over a
Right.
course of time. It then leads you up to a point where you're then, like, to climb a mountain, you have to first of all climb a hill. So you got yourself over a period of time into the position where you then saw this mental toughness program and thought, I feel confident that I can now do this. So the program's not for everybody, is it? And it might be eventually.
Right. Right. It's not for everyone. And I would say that even if, you know, I would say for people definitely to look at it, but like not to take it as a failure if don't succeed at your first try. Um, it's There's a lot of things to be learned from it, with the daily habits, and that's the thing for me. Those 45-minute workouts, like that's what I was like. I have to do this, and I'm going to do this because I struggled so much. So I feel like depending on where you're at in your journey or in your life, you're going to get different things out of it, but whatever you get out of it is going to be positive and beneficial and help you build on to your next goals.
Yeah, that's it. You achieve a small goal, it builds momentum, self belief, and then you can tackle something a little bit bigger, achieve that, more momentum, more self belief. Then you keep on
Yep.
rising up and up and up, don't you? No one started their first mountain by climbing Mount Everest. I'm pretty sure they've done a few smaller mountains before that point.
Yes, absolutely.
So Sarah, so now you're obviously years later now, and in the position you're in now, physically and mentally, are you pleased that you gave up your business?
Oh, 100%. I have no regrets. Um, I look at that time as a blessing for all the lessons I did learn in life. Um, but I will tell you, I'll never open another business again. As far as like bakery or anything, like I am moving in a whole different direction in life. And I don't think that would have been possible if I wouldn't have given it up. I felt
Do,
like I probably would have been stuck that I'm just a baker for the rest of my life, and I would have never discovered what is out there for me.
do you think that the position you're in now, both physically and mentally, if you were to reopen the business again, do you think you could cope with it better now that you're in better health, or do you think you'd start sliding back down to the stress and the?
Honestly, I think it would bring stress, just because. So recently, I stepped into a management position at a food business, and again, not knowing, not wanting to say no or not wanting to disappoint, and just looking at all the aspects that go into running a business. And in this climate and economy and day and age, it's really hard. Things are really expensive. And I don't think that I could do it even with my mental state now, because I feel like it would pull me back the other way.
And I'm assuming now you prioritize health over business or
Oh,
finance.
absolutely. Yes. Yep, I will actually be starting my personal training certification at the end of August. So I'm going to be a personal trainer,
Wow.
so that I can help inspire and motivate other people to live their best lives, whatever that looks like. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think, everyone has a goal weight or a perfect body, but I do believe that we can all mentally get ourselves better just by working out and eating right. Like, I believe in health more for the mental reasons than for any other reasons, if that makes sense. Like, yeah, it'd be nice to have a six pack but I'm not looking to be a certain size. I'm just looking on being happy.
And you know what, as well, you don't have to have a six pack to be a fitness coach. You don't have to. You don't have to have achieved everything in life that it has to offer just to be a life coach, for example. You know, you don't have to be a stick insect to try and help people lose weight. You just have to have done it yourself. Like that's the big. I think the biggest life experience is experience. It's the biggest qualification you can have. And also, the last stage of healing is using what you've done to help other people. I think that's the last stage. It's like as well as maintaining your own health. You overcome something, you get yourself into a position, then you're the ideal person. Like if anybody was gonna want to lose weight now, I'd say go and see Sarah. Like she's proven it. It's like facts don't lie, do they? You know what I mean? Whereas you've got all these coaches nowadays that you see online that are flexing their muscles and their six pack. Okay, they've obviously done the hard work. They've obviously been in the gym every single day.
Right.
Um, but you have to. Sometimes someone's personal story is important because they might not have had to overcome the same challenges as. Do you know what I mean? Every individual's different and would appeal to other people more. Do you know what I mean? So I was going to ask you what your plans for the future were. So you're going to become a fitness coach.
Yes, yep. So I'm enrolling at the end of August here into NASM. I'm signing on for their personal trainer certification. And I am looking forward to that. I'm hoping to finish it within 6 months and get a job just helping people educate themselves that, they don't need to be on this strict diet or working out 6 days a week to better themselves, that it really starts with the smallest of steps. Because my whole life I thought I had to be this extreme athlete or, eat rice cakes and chicken for the rest of my life if I wanted to, be healthy, quote unquote. But that's not it at all. It's literally just doing the smallest of tasks every single day consistently will get you to where you want to go. And, to tell people that there are no quick fixes or magic pills, or there's nothing like that. There is time and consistency and hard work, but my hard work as opposed to somebody else's hard work, like I said, might be that 5 minutes of walking for a day, might be 2 push-ups. I mean, it's just everybody's going to start at a different level, and that's okay. And I think a lot of people think in order to lose weight they have to become this athlete or cut everything out, and that's just not realistic. And I feel like people set themselves up for failure that way. So I'm just hoping that if I gain a little more knowledge, that I can help inspire people to better themselves and help bring the obesity epidemic down a little bit.
There's a brain tattoo that I've implanted in my brain from Robin Sharma. I say it quite often, and you've said it a couple of times in this chat. That small daily, seemingly insignificant improvements, when done consistently over time, produce staggering results. So you've got the word staggering at one end and you've got the word small at this end. And it's the small, daily, seemingly insignificant improvements that you can't see, like you discussed on your weight loss journey, you can't always see until they stack up and stack up. And James Clear speaks about this in his book Atomic Habits, where habits stacking, it builds and builds smallly and then it ends up becoming a staggering result that you can look back on. And it is those small daily tasks you do. Sarah, thank you very much for telling us your story.
Well,
It's
thanks for
brilliant.
having me.
No, it's fantastic. Look, if you could, and you've given so much advice already that I feel I'm taking the mickey asking you for another one. But if you could give, if you could give one piece of advice to the listeners of this show, what's your golden rule that you would like them to take away?
That one day at a time. One day at a time is what I wake up with every morning. So, say you had a binge the other night before, doesn't matter. Say you've got things coming up tomorrow, that doesn't matter. I literally focus on everything one day at a time, one meal at a time, one exercise at a time. I don't overwhelm my stuff with, okay, I've got to get all this in a week or in a month, or because I used to be all over the place thinking you had to have, like I said, these set rules per se, or strict guidelines, and you don't. You just have to take it one step at a time.
Yeah, that's fantastic advice, and I try and apply that because I type up a plan, like a daily plan, weekly plan, and I pencil in like the time I'm going to work out in the day and what the workout's going to be and what dinner I'm going to have. And a lot of the time I stick to it, but there's times where you don't, and because you have to just adjust. Like you might have got home late and you have to change your dinner plan, but the principle of it being healthy still remains. And I literally just think to myself now, what's the next thing I've got to do? Like I might have eaten a really healthy meal. That's that thing done. What's next? My exercise. And then I do that. What's next? My journaling. Like what's next? And then I just take the next task now. And it's, you just adapt and conquer. My friend Mark Potter, he might be listening to this. He always says adapt and conquer. And that's what we have to do every day, really, isn't it?
It is. I like that quote a lot.
Good old Gov. Anyway, Sarah, thanks very much. It's been a great chat, and I'm sure the listeners who have tuned in to listen to the whole of this episode would have taken so much benefit from that, because there's a lot of people that are struggling with similar things that you've struggled with in the past, and it's a daily battle. And I'm sure there's been some great value that they can take. So yeah, we hope we've brought you some great advice for the listeners to take away and to apply it into their own life. I'm sure they can take something from this conversation that they're going through that they can relate to, apply it in their own life to improve themselves and to improve their lives. So once again, Sarah, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It's been wonderful.
Take care.
You as well.
Bye.
Bye-bye.